Hey YouTube, Andrew here, and as you guys can see, I'm about to profile my Vanquisher Vowing Saber deck profile. As many of you know, I was running a pure version of Vanquisher with the Jagisha Chatara engine before switching to this, and when I ran that other Vanquisher deck, it was maintaining its consistency, but it wasn't giving a lot of power ups to my rear guards, and I haven't won any games because of that. Consistency with no success. But I switched over to a Vowing Saber variant of the deck, and it is going a lot more smoothly. It's maintaining the consistency just as well, and is giving way more power ups. And it's winning me more games because of that too. Anyways, onto the profile. Starting off, your typical V starter for the deck. Next up, drag Veta as your rover trigger, because restanding is nice. And now for the rest of the triggers. 3 draw PGs, solid drawing perfect guard to have in the deck. 3 grade 3 heals. Great to have for early game and as a unit to stride with, if you need to. 8 critical triggers. So my reason for running the GB1 crit over the 5k draw 1 crit is all because of higher bonuses. Her crit bonus gives her crit bonus and her draw 1 power up bonus both give higher power. Granted, I do have to wait with her, but I'd rather wait and get the higher bonuses than get the lower bonuses immediately. But that's just how I like to go about it. Next up for grade 1s, Sanctitude. Perfect stride guarder. Next up for Mighty Bolt, 2 of the G version and 2 of the V version. G version's there to help get Vanquisher out faster, and V Mighty Bolt's good to have as a 13k beater and a decent grade 3 searcher as well. Next up, 4 copies of Nusku. Generic Eradicator Searcher, undoubtedly. 4 copies of Demolition Dragon. Good draw and bind extender to have for the deck. And now for grade 2s. Starting off, 4 copies of Zuitan. Good unit to have for drawing and giving power to. Next up, 4 copies of Spark Rain. Oh, sorry, I accidentally showed 3 Zuitan. I run them at 4. Next up, 4 copies of Spark Rain. This guy's really good because he gets plus 1,000 power for every bound unit for free. All there really is to him. Free power-ups. And finally, 4 copies of Spark Raised Dragon. Definitely the best first grade 2 right in the deck. You get to search for an Eradicator, and whether he's on Vanguard or Rearguard, he's a good draw extender to have in the deck. And now for grade 3s. Starting off, 4 copies of Dragonic Vanquisher. You definitely want to ride him before you ever decide to ride Vowing Saber. That way you can get off Zoros when you get your first stride. And he's honestly a better card to have for most of your strides. Next up, I run 4 Vowing Saber Reverse. And my reasons for running him is because 1, he's a good backup grade 3 to have for the deck. And 2, because this guy is absolutely busted to run with Stunverse. Even though Stunverse at 1, the Stunverse Vowing Saber combo is still one of the most busted combos in the whole game, debatably. And it and no matter what turn you take, if you get to ride Vowing Saber, you definitely want to stride into Stunverse for this guy. Now for strides. 2 Zoras. Definitely your best first stride for the deck, so you can get your Excel markers. Next up, 1 Stunverse. It's definitely a lot better to utilize with Vowing Saber than Vanquisher, but it's good to utilize. It's fine to utilize with Vanquisher if you don't have Vowing Saber, and if it's a turn that you're better off striding into Stunverse for. Next up, 1 copy of Exterminate Dragon. When you stride into this guy, you get to Soul Blast 1 and draw a card for every empty front row rear guard your opponent has. And then after that, you can Counterblast 1 and give your whole front row plus 1,000 power for every empty front row rear guard your opponent has. So it's a good power-up draw extender for the deck for sure. Next up, 2 copies of Voltage. This guy's skill, for those that don't know, is once per turn, flip over another Voltage. If his attack hits, your opponent chooses one of their rear guards and retires it. And then your whole front row gets plus 3,000 power for all your opponent's bound rear guards. Next up, 4 copies of V-Buster. His skill is Soul Blast 1, choose 1 card in your opponent's drop zone and bind it. And then his other skill is GB3, Thunderstrike 7. This guy gets plus 5,000 power, plus 1 critical, and gets another drive. Next up, GB8, practically your main finisher for the deck. And now for G-Guardians. Starting off, you've got 3 copies of Counteract Dragon. You mainly want to use him to use as a free 20k G-Guarder. There will be times where your opponent will decide to bind rear guards instead of let you have the power-up, but you mainly want to use it for power-up purposes. Next up, 2 copies of Bulwark. Good card to have for pesky resting front row rear guards that your opponent will have to retire. And finally, 2 copies of Impede Dragon. Practically the Denial Griffin for this deck. Anyways, thank you all for watching my deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more content, and have a good night, everyone. See you later.